Have you ever walked down a busy street and noticed someone sitting quietly on the sidewalk, with nothing to call their own, no home, no money, and no one to care for them? Perhaps you looked away, feeling uncomfortable, or maybe your heart felt heavy with sadness. But have you ever wondered what story that person carries inside? What dreams, what memories, or what pain they hide behind their eyes? Today, I want to tell you the story of a man who seemed to have nothing at all. He had no warm bed, no job, and almost no food, yet inside him lived a secret dream, a tiny flame that would one day change his life completely. This is not just a story about poverty or struggle, it is a story about hope, courage, and the power of believing in yourself. As you listen, you will follow his journey step by step. And while you do, you can practice your English listening skills. You can learn new words, understand simple sentences, and feel the rhythm of spoken English. Life is full of lessons, and learning English is also a journey. Sometimes it is slow and difficult, but just like the man in this story, if you keep moving forward, small steps will turn into big changes. So listen carefully, and imagine yourself walking beside him on the streets, feeling the cold wind, seeing the bright lights of the city, and discovering that even in the darkest places, hope can live. This story is not only about one man. It is about all of us. Each of us has dreams, fears, and struggles hidden deep inside our hearts. Sometimes life feels impossible. Sometimes the world seems unfair. We may feel small, unimportant, or ignored. But even in these moments, something magical can happen. Dreams, even quiet, small dreams, have the power to change everything. The man in this story taught himself to believe in what he could not yet see. He taught himself that small steps matter more than large leaps, that patience is stronger than despair, and that hope can shine in the most unexpected places. As you listen, think about your own dreams. Think about learning English or starting something new in your life. Sometimes we feel slow, like we are not moving at all, but every effort counts. Every word you practice, every sentence you read, every listening exercise you do, brings you closer to your goal. Life and learning are journeys, and persistence is the key. Today, let us walk together through this story. Let us learn not only English words, but also lessons of courage, belief, and resilience. And maybe, by the end, you will feel inspired to see your own dreams in a new light. The man was about 40 years old. He was not young, but not very old either. His hair was long and messy, and his beard had grown unevenly over months. His clothes were old, torn at the knees and elbows, and smelled of dust and rain. He carried a small bag, which held almost nothing, just a thin blanket, a broken pen, and a small notebook with torn pages. Every morning, he would sit near a bakery. The smell of fresh bread filled the air, warm and sweet, but he had no money to buy even a single piece. Sometimes, he would watch the baker, hoping for a small crumb that fell to the ground. But mostly, he just watched people pass by. He noticed their faces, their smiles, their hurried steps. In his notebook, he sometimes wrote what he saw, the laughter of children, the worried faces of office workers, the gentle touch of a mother holding her baby. These small observations reminded him that life, even outside his struggles, was still alive and moving. Every person passing by was a story, and he liked to imagine their stories in his mind. Even though he had so little, his mind and heart were full. He reminded himself each day that he was not just a man with no home, he was a man with thoughts, feelings, and a dream. Life was not easy. Most people ignored him completely. They walked past without a glance. Some looked with pity, but quickly looked away, as if their sympathy could not stay long. Some stared and judged him silently, whispering to their friends or shaking their heads. Children sometimes pointed at him, asking questions that their parents hushed quickly. Nights were the hardest. The cold air cut through his thin clothes, and he shivered under a bridge or in empty doorways. Hunger gnawed at his stomach every day, and loneliness wrapped around him like a heavy blanket. Some days, he found scraps of food in garbage cans, or a warm drink offered by a kind stranger. But often, he had nothing. The city felt large and busy, and he felt invisible. Yet inside him, something quietly persisted. He held on to a tiny flame of hope. It whispered, "You are more than this. You have a purpose. You are not finished yet." Even on the darkest nights, he reminded himself that tomorrow could be different, that life could change, that his dream could come true. And that thought, small as it was, kept him moving forward. From the outside, people saw only a man broken by life. They saw a homeless figure sitting quietly, cold and hungry, with no one to help. But from the inside, he was not empty. His mind was full of ideas, plans, and visions for the future. His heart was full of stories he wanted to share, smiles he wanted to see, and a warm place he wanted to create. While his hands were rough and dirty, his imagination was clean and bright. While his stomach ached with hunger, his heart overflowed with dreams. He often whispered to himself, "I am more than what you see. I can do more than you believe." That small voice was his true companion. No one could see it, but it guided him, comforted him, and gave him courage. Every day, he walked the streets with this hidden world inside him, a world no one could take away. And slowly, even without anyone noticing, this hidden dream began to shape his actions, little by little, step by step. Inside his notebook, hidden between torn pages and smudged ink, lived his secret dream. It was not a dream of riches, of cars, or of grand houses. His dream was simple, yet powerful. He wanted to open a small cafe. Not just any cafe, but a warm place filled with stories, music, and kindness. He imagined shelves with books, soft chairs where tired people could rest, and the smell of coffee and fresh bread filling the air. He dreamed of a place where no one felt invisible, where even the lonely could find comfort. In his mind, the cafe was more than a business, it was a home for strangers, a place of belonging. But of course, he never told anyone. Who would believe a man with no home, no job, and no money talking about a cafe? People would laugh. People would dismiss him. So he kept the dream hidden deep inside, like a treasure no one else could see. At night, when the world was asleep and he lay under the cold stars, he closed his eyes and walked through his imaginary cafe. He saw himself serving coffee, smiling at customers, hearing laughter. He let himself believe, if only for a few minutes, that this dream was possible. And that belief, even though small, became his secret strength. His secret dream gave him something most people could not see, purpose. Every morning, when he woke up cold and hungry, he had a reason to keep moving. He told himself, "One day, I will create my cafe. One day, I will serve people with warmth." In his private world, he was not just a homeless man, he was a builder, a creator, and a dreamer. Sometimes, he sketched little drawings of tables, chairs, or coffee cups in his notebook. Sometimes, he wrote about the kind of music he wanted to play, the type of bread he wanted to serve, or the friendly smile he would give to his customers. These small actions might look meaningless to others, but to him, they were steps towards something bigger. When his stomach hurt with hunger, he would read his notes and remind himself, "I am still alive. I still have a dream." That quiet hope gave him energy to face another day. Many people think survival only means food and shelter, but for him, survival also meant holding on to hope. Without his dream, he might have given up. With his dream, he found a reason to keep breathing, even when everything around him seemed hopeless. Dreams can be fragile, like small flames in the wind. If you expose them too soon, people may laugh, judge, or crush them. That is why he kept his cafe dream a secret. He protected it like a tiny fire inside his chest. He feared that if he shared it with others, they would say, "That's impossible," and he would lose the strength it gave him. So he lived two lives, the outside life, where he looked poor and broken, and the inside life, where he was rich in imagination. Every day, he added a little more to his dream. Sometimes he thought about the walls of the cafe, painted warm colors. Sometimes he thought about the smell of soup, simple but comforting, filling the air. Other times, he thought about how he would welcome people who had no place to go, just like him. The dream was alive, and he guarded it carefully. Many people think dreams are foolish, but they forget that dreams are the first step to change. Before anything becomes real, it must first live inside the mind. He understood this truth deeply, and so he never let the cold, hunger, or loneliness steal his vision. His body may have been weak, but his imagination was strong. Every day brought new struggles. The streets were not safe. Some nights he had to move quickly when police told him to leave. Other nights, he had to stay awake because he feared being attacked. Finding food was a daily challenge. Sometimes he searched through trash bins, hoping for something not yet spoiled. Other times, kind strangers gave him bread or fruit. He learned to appreciate even the smallest piece of food, because it kept him alive for another day. Finding shelter was also difficult. In winter, the nights were brutal. His thin blanket was not enough to keep away the cold, and sometimes he woke up shaking so hard he could not stop. In summer, the heat was cruel, and thirst became his enemy. But even in these harsh conditions, he carried his notebook. That notebook was his most valuable possession, because it held his dream. When life felt unbearable, he opened it, read his notes, and reminded himself, this is not the end. This is only the beginning. For him, survival was not just about food and water, it was also about keeping his spirit alive, and that notebook was the key. The hardest part of his daily struggle was not hunger or cold. The hardest part was how people looked at him, or rather, how they didn't. Most people ignored him as if he did not exist. Some avoided eye contact. Some crossed the street to stay away. Others whispered or laughed. A few threw coins at him, not out of kindness, but out of pity, as if giving money could erase their discomfort. These reactions hurt him more than the hunger. They made him feel invisible, like he was not a person at all. Loneliness wrapped around him, heavy and suffocating. Days would pass when no one spoke to him. The silence was painful. Human beings need connection, need words, need someone to look at them with respect. Without it, the heart begins to ache. But he held on to his dream. In his dream cafe, people would not ignore each other. In his cafe, kindness and connection would flow like coffee. The thought of creating such a place kept his heart alive, even when the world treated him as if he were nothing. It reminded him that he was still human, still valuable, and still capable of love and vision. Every morning, he woke up to the same challenges. The streets were loud with cars, buses, and people rushing to work, while he quietly moved among them, unnoticed. Hunger was always present, gnawing at his stomach, reminding him that survival was not easy. Rainstorms soaked him to the bone, wind cut through his thin clothing, and the sun burned his skin in summer. Yet, the harsh conditions did not crush his spirit completely. Each day he reminded himself, I am still here. I am still dreaming. He often watched the city around him, noticing small details that others ignored. A bird landing on a bench, children laughing as they ran to school, a musician playing guitar on the street. These small moments reminded him that life could be beautiful even in hardship. Sometimes, he felt hopeless, wondering if his dream was too big, if a man like him could ever open a cafe. But then he would open his notebook, write a few sentences, sketch a cup of coffee, or imagine the smell of fresh bread, and a tiny spark of hope would return. That spark, no matter how small, kept him alive. Survival was not only about food or safety, it was about maintaining the flame of his dream, no matter how cold the world was. And in that persistence, he discovered a strange strength, a resilience he did not know he had. One rainy afternoon, while searching for shelter, he met a woman who offered him a warm cup of tea. She did not ask questions or judge him. She simply smiled and said, "Here, take this. You deserve warmth." That small act of kindness felt enormous. It was the first sign that someone believed in him as a person, not as a shadow on the street. From that moment, he began to feel that change might be possible. The woman gave him a flyer about a free community workshop on small business and entrepreneurship. He could hardly believe it. Could a man like him attend a workshop, learn new skills, and even dream of a real cafe? The thought both thrilled and scared him. But he remembered his notebook, his sketches, and his imagined cafe. He thought, if I don't try, I will never know. If I take even one step, maybe something will happen. That day, soaked from the rain but filled with a new energy, he decided to attend the workshop. It was a small step, but for him, it was a giant leap toward his dream. He realized that even tiny opportunities, when taken seriously, could become the first spark of change in a life that seemed impossible to change. After attending the workshop, something inside him shifted. He realized that his dream was not impossible, it was simply waiting for action. For the first time in years, he felt a spark of real determination. He remembered the sketches in his notebook, the imagined smells of bread, and the laughter of imagined customers. He decided that he would take small steps every day, no matter how little progress he could see. Each morning, he woke up with a new goal, to learn something new, to save a little money, or to speak with someone who could help him. He started practicing how he would greet customers, how he would make coffee, and even how he could decorate a small space. These actions seemed tiny, almost insignificant, but in reality, they were the foundation of his new life. For the first time, he understood that change does not come from wishes or dreams alone, it comes from repeated small steps, even in difficult conditions. Slowly, the invisible man was beginning to become visible, not just to the world, but to himself. Of course, the road was not easy. Every step toward his dream was met with obstacles. Money was scarce. He had to decide between buying food today or saving a few coins for future classes or materials. People doubted him. Some friends and strangers laughed at the idea of a homeless man opening a cafe. Sometimes he failed at small tasks, like spilling coffee at the workshop or forgetting a simple skill. But each challenge became a lesson. He learned patience, persistence, and humility. He reminded himself, mistakes are part of learning. Small failures are part of success. Even when nights were cold and days were exhausting, he held on to his dream. His resilience was growing. He realized that courage is not the absence of fear, it is acting despite fear. And every small action, every tiny success, was proof that he could continue moving forward. Slowly, the world began to seem less like an obstacle and more like a teacher. He began to take tangible steps. He attended every free workshop he could find. He watched online videos about running a small business, making coffee, and baking bread. He practiced reading recipes, calculating costs, and even writing short stories for customers to enjoy. Some nights, when he had no paper, he practiced writing in the dirt with a stick, drawing little cups of coffee and imagining the cafe full of people. Every step, no matter how small, felt like progress. He realized that persistence is more important than speed. Even if he could not build the cafe today, learning, practicing, and preparing were steps in the right direction. Slowly, he felt a shift in his own mind. He was no longer just surviving, he was growing, learning, and building a future he had once thought impossible. To follow his dream, he had to make sacrifices. He sometimes went hungry to save a few coins. He slept less to attend workshops or study new skills. He avoided easy distractions, like idle chatting or wasting time, choosing instead to focus on his dream. At first, this felt lonely. He missed comforts he once had, even if they were small. But with each day, he learned that sacrifice brought strength. He reminded himself, the cafe is worth the effort. My dream is worth the struggle. He began to notice that his own confidence was growing. He felt stronger, braver, and more determined than ever before. And in that effort, he discovered a truth that many people never learn: real change comes only when we are willing to give up short-term comfort for long-term growth. One of the biggest challenges was learning skills he had never known. Making coffee, baking bread, managing a small business, these were not easy. He often made mistakes. Bread burned, coffee spilled, numbers did not add up. But he refused to give up. He repeated the same tasks over and over, learning from each failure. Slowly, the tasks became easier. He discovered a new patience in himself. He realized that learning is a journey, not a race. And as he improved, he began to feel proud. The notebook, once only a place for dreams, became a record of progress. Every note, every sketch, every calculation was proof that he was moving forward. His dream was no longer just imagination, it was becoming real in his hands and mind. People began to notice him, not for his past or his clothes, but for his dedication. Workshop instructors complimented his hard work. Some strangers offered advice or small donations when they learned of his goal. He realized that persistence can inspire others. Slowly, the invisible man was becoming visible. But he never let praise distract him. He remembered that his work was for himself and his dream, not for approval. Each small recognition felt like a gift, but the real gift was the growing confidence inside him. The small sparks of encouragement reminded him that he was capable and deserving of success. After months of effort, he achieved small victories. He finished a short course on cafe management. He saved a small amount of money, just enough to buy ingredients for a few practice recipes. He even managed to serve a few cups of coffee to friends and volunteers at the workshop. These small victories felt enormous. They were proof that his dream was not just a fantasy. Each achievement fueled his determination. He realized that every big dream is built from tiny steps, and that consistent effort, day after day, eventually leads to visible results. He began to smile more, feel lighter, and believe in the possibility of a real cafe. With each small success, his hope grew. He no longer felt invisible or powerless. He understood that even though life had been harsh, he could take control of his future. The notebook, the sketches, the lessons, and the sacrifices were all paying off. He realized that life is not about the circumstances you are born into, but the choices you make and the effort you put in. His dream cafe was no longer just a vision, it was becoming a plan. And in his heart, he knew that persistence, patience, and belief in oneself could turn even the smallest spark into a powerful flame. He was ready to continue, no matter what challenges lay ahead. By now, he understood the power of small victories. Each small success, whether saving a few coins, learning a new skill, or finishing a practice recipe, was a building block. Life had taught him that dreams are rarely achieved in one big leap, they are built step by step. He celebrated quietly, sometimes smiling to himself under the night sky, sometimes sharing his joy with a kind stranger who had helped him. These small victories were proof that effort matters more than circumstance. Even the smallest achievements can light a fire inside, giving hope and courage. And in celebrating them, he discovered gratitude, not for material wealth, but for persistence, learning, and human kindness. Every little success reminded him that he was capable, that he was growing, and that dreams can survive even the harshest conditions. He learned a powerful lesson: dreams are possible, even in hard circumstances. He had no money, no home, and few resources, yet his dream continued to grow because he nourished it with action. This taught him that the mind can be stronger than any obstacle. People often look at others and see only the surface, judging based on clothes, appearance, or social position. But life has a deeper truth: what matters most is determination, vision, and effort. Even a dream that seems impossible can come alive if you dedicate yourself to it. He realized that hope is not naive, it is a tool. With hope, effort, and faith, even the smallest steps can lead to remarkable change. And this lesson, hard-earned, became part of his identity, shaping how he faced the world every day. Another lesson he learned was about consistency. A few coins saved each day, a few minutes of learning each day, a few sketches made each day, these small actions, repeated over time, built something real. Many people wait for perfect conditions, thinking that change requires huge resources or extraordinary talent. But he understood that persistent effort, repeated day after day, can surpass luck, opportunity, and circumstance. The cafe in his mind grew slowly but surely because he added something to it every single day. This lesson is universal, no matter the goal, learning a skill, starting a business, or improving your life, small, steady actions matter more than short bursts of effort. Success grows quietly, almost unnoticed, until suddenly, it becomes visible. He also learned a lesson about people. Many ignored him or judged him because he looked poor and broken. But he realized that everyone has hidden struggles and unseen potential. Appearance tells only a tiny part of the story. What lies inside, the heart, the mind, the determination, matters far more. By believing in himself and respecting others, he saw the kindness that exists in the world, even in unexpected places. This lesson became part of how he lived, helping him stay humble and empathetic. And as he grew closer to his dream, he understood that true human value is not measured by wealth, looks, or status, it is measured by courage, effort, and character. Finally, he learned that patience and faith are essential. Life rarely changes overnight, and dreams take time to become reality. There were moments of doubt, frustration, and loneliness. But each time he felt weak, he returned to his notebook, his sketches, and his dream. Faith kept him moving forward, even when the path was unclear. He understood that persistence is more than effort, it is trust in the process. Every setback was a lesson, every challenge an opportunity, and every tiny achievement a sign of progress. By believing in himself and his dream, he had already transformed his inner world, even before the cafe became a physical reality. Just like the man pursued his dream, you can pursue your English goals. Learning a language may feel difficult, slow, or confusing. You may struggle with vocabulary, pronunciation, or understanding native speakers. But every word you learn, every sentence you read or listen to, is a step toward your goal. Like the man's small daily actions toward his cafe, your consistent practice will build real progress. Do not compare yourself to others. Focus on your journey, your steps, and your growth. Even when mistakes happen, they are part of learning. Remember, persistence matters more than perfection. The more you practice, the stronger your English skills become, and the closer you get to fluency. Begin with small actions. Speak a few sentences each day. Read one paragraph, write one note, listen for 5 minutes. These small efforts, repeated daily, are your building blocks. Just like the man saved a few coins and learned one skill at a time, your English improves step by step. Do not be discouraged by slow progress. Each day adds up. Every new word, every new phrase, every listening exercise strengthens your ability. Consistency is the key. The man's dream grew slowly but surely. Your English skills will grow in the same way, quietly, steadily, and powerfully, if you remain patient and committed. The man faced fear every day, fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of the unknown. You may also face fear when learning English, fear of speaking incorrectly, fear of making mistakes, or fear of not understanding. But fear should not stop you. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is acting despite fear. Each time you try, each time you speak, read, or listen, you strengthen your confidence. Mistakes are not failures, they are part of the journey. Remember the man under the bridge with his notebook. He acted even when the world seemed against him. You can act too. Each effort, no matter how small, moves you closer to your goal. Your dream, your effort, and your consistency can change your life. Just like the man transformed his hope into action, you can transform your goals into reality. The path may be long, and sometimes it may seem invisible, but persistence, patience, and belief are your strongest tools. Do not underestimate the power of small daily steps. Your learning, your practice, and your courage will build a foundation stronger than any obstacle. Keep going, even when it feels slow. One day, you will look back and see how far you have come, just like the man looked at his notebook and realized how close his cafe was to becoming real. A man with no home, no money, and no hope showed the world that a dream, no matter how small, can change a life. He taught us that hope, action, and persistence are stronger than fear, doubt, or circumstance. And his story is not only about survival, it is about transformation, courage, and the power of believing in yourself. Your dream, whether it is learning English, starting a business, or creating something meaningful, can change your life too. Every small step matters, every effort counts, and every moment of persistence builds a brighter future. Keep believing. Keep trying. Keep moving forward. Just as the man turned his hidden dream into a journey of hope and success, you can turn your dreams into reality. The path may be challenging, but it is possible. And the first step, the next step, is always yours to take.